But first, the burnout. Now, this is a burnout. It's not difficult, really. Rev the engine, keep your foot on the brake, make as much smoke as you can. All your mates cheer and jeer. Look at that, they're really pleased. And look at all that smoke. Marvellous. See, it's really not that difficult. And to put it into perspective, we've got one of our charts here. This actually shows the ascent of man. So we started down here as apes, and then over millions of years we evolved through the Willman era, through the Subaru Impreza driver era, until we get here, upright walking, modern man as we know him today, capable of thought and general brilliant stuff. So who wants to imagine where we might put the burnout driver on this chart? Where do we think he might appear? I mean, you know, kind of up here, or maybe down here, or down here. Well, I can tell you, actually, it's here. There he is, you see? There he is. In what we like to call the Nova SR Ice age. So we know people at that end can do it. What about people up towards this end? Can clever people do burnouts?
And I mean really clever, like Boffin clever. The first contestant in our Brainbox Burnout is Heinz Wolf, Professor of Bioengineering at Brunel University. Competing against him is Brian Sewell, Britain's brainiest art critic. And finally, Professor Colin Pillinger, the country's leading expert on planetary and space science research. And this is the car the eggheads will be burning out. A Nissan 300ZX with 480 brake horsepower, a competition clutch and twin 10-inch subwoofers. So there we are, Britain's brightest brains focused on mankind's most mindless activity.
I think what I like about it is that it's part of a mechanical ballet.
It has brakes.
Yes.
That's why no woman should ever drive a car. They simply don't understand how these things mesh together.
So it's accelerator, clutch, brake.
No, accelerator, brake, clutch. You see, we didn't foresee this. They're still asking questions. This could take hours.
First up, Brian Sewell, who wrote of Botticelli's portrait of Smeralda Bandinelli. The background architecture is an unconvincing fiction, the perspective absurdly steep in its unnerving rush into an unreal distance. Not bad. And now it's time for the massive IQ of Professor Wolf.
No, I'm having distinct touch trouble in this.
Right, big rev. No.
No. No. No. I missed the brake with my foot.
You missed.
Oh dear. He may know lots about the composition of polyisoprenes, but he can't mash his tyres. And finally, Professor Colin Pillinger, a real rocket scientist.
Very impressive. You may have noticed one missing. That's because Professor Heinz Wolf was so gutted at not doing desperately well, he had to rush off home and invent something to console himself.
We have still got two, though.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
I would just like to say what a great pleasure it is for me to have people on my intellectual plane for a change.
Oh, no, I know where this is going, and I know what you're about to say, because I'm a doctor.
I am a doctor.
No, you're not.
I am a doctor.
Can I just explain? Jeremy got his doctorate one morning in his packet of cornflakes. He just
I
tipped
did
it over.
not. I got it from Brunel University. They gave me a doctorate.
He went to a party, they gave him a badge that said, I am a doctor on it.
OK,
Ever since we've had to call him the Doctor.
Can I just say, I think we're agreed on this. As man becomes more civilised, as time passes, he gets taller, doesn't he?
Oh,
the taller the man.
This is puerile. Big brains, puerile stuff. Obviously, Professor Heinz Wolf, it must be said, came very much third. Nevertheless, in second place, Brian Sewell. It was a magnificent effort. Very well done.
Well done.
If it's any consolation, yours looked better. It had perhaps more artistic flair to it. I think I did well making up there.
Nevertheless, the winner, I think we're all agreed on this, with a magnificent performance. Colin Pillinger, everybody! Well done. Well done. Now, there's just one more thing I'd like to say before we go. Colin here, you really are a rocket scientist, aren't you? Because your Beagle 2, Mars lander, will be landing on the red planet on...
Christmas Day, 2:54 a.m. in the morning.
2:54. So it's not a question of shall we watch the Queen's speech or shall we watch pictures from my car on Mars?
AM.
AM.
Queen is on PM, remember.
I mean, fingers crossed that goes well. But I would just like to say, you're going to beat the Americans, aren't you?
We'll be there first.
Ladies and gentlemen, for that, a big round. Well done.